Hello everyone, my name is Kong Shrinani and welcome to my YouTube channel, Neuro Chat with AG. On this channel, I plan to cover topics that are closest to my heart and support the neurodiverse community. Topics related to neurodiversity, autism, late autism diagnosis, and autism in women and girls. I will interview thought leaders, esteemed researchers, scientists, professors, doctors, and psychologists and seek their views and updates on their latest work and research. I will also chat with parents of neurodiverse kids and adults and talk about experiences of neurodiverse individuals. Lastly, keeping inclusivity as a topmost priority, we might also discuss controversial disparate views for a collective understanding of issues and respect for diverse views. All the views and topics discussed are for informational purposes only. If you are interested in watching more quality content on this topic, please hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to press the bell icon to be notified whenever a new video is uploaded. Please also share the channel with your friends, family, and social media platforms. Thank you. Dr. Sven Bölte is a professor of child and adolescent psychiatry science and directs the Center of Neurodevelopmental Conditions at Karolinska Institute in Sweden. He also heads the neuropsychiatry division at the Department of Women and Children's Health. For more than 30 years, he has worked in the fields of neurodevelopmental disorders and cognitive neuroscience. His research often focuses on understanding the neurological and genetic underpinnings of conditions such as autism and ADHD. He has received several recognitions, both in Sweden and internationally, like the Fellow of the International Society for Autism Research. He has published more than 500 articles, reviews, book chapters, assessments, and intervention tools in the field of autism, ADHD, and other neurodevelopmental conditions and mental health, which has been cited more than 37,000 times. Dr. Bolte, welcome, and thank you very much for the time today.
Well, thank you so very much for having me.
So to jump right into it, I want to ask what inspired you to specialize in child and adolescent psychiatry, and how did you develop your research interest in this field?
Yeah, as a young person, it took me a while to find out, like many people, what I would like to do. And then I started studying psychology, and while doing it, I got more interested into neuropsychology and clinical psychology and psychiatry. And then when I got my first employment, that was in Frankfurt at the Goethe University Academic Hospital in child psychiatry. And there was quite a huge autism genetics project ongoing, and I was a lot engaged in this. And then I got more and more interested in autism and other neurodevelopmental condition. And then I continued with it. So it developed to a passion. So that's why I'm there. So I would say, it's I used to say it's some kind of it's both a coincidence, but it's also a bit systematic.
I wanted to ask you about what your current research is and what are the primary areas of focus of the research you do.
Yeah. So probably I'm doing too many things. I always say to myself, I need to focus more. I say yes to a lot of things. I'm just interested in a lot of things. But I'm trying to focus just in recent years a little bit more on two things. The first is work in the area of functioning. So there is there's a system by the WHO classification system that looks at how you can describe an individual, both in terms of strength and individual challenges, and how the environment impacts how it is both hindering and facilitating. And I find this approach very, very promising for the field of, for instance, autism and ADHD. And I would like to make it more feasible for this area, both for research and practice. And yeah, I'm really trying to make it implementable in many fields of society, not only in the clinical area, but also in the schools and social services. And that's one of the things that I really invest most of my time in. And the other thing is I'm also convinced that there's a lot of potential and possibilities in all individuals, and for instance also in autistic individuals, and I would like to have them acquire kind of skills that maybe empower them to get more control over their own lives. So I'm also interested in several forms of skills training. So these are the two big things I'm doing, and then I'm involved in a lot of other things that I cannot say no to. But I think that's my two main areas at the moment.
And I had a question regarding that second area of focus. So, as you probably know, graduating from childhood to adolescence is hard, and I would say in many cases misunderstood. Um, Almost every child does go through this. So, how does your research address the challenges faced by children and adolescents with psychiatric conditions?
Yeah. So I would say kind of both the skills training and also the ICF approach, they're both quite valuable for addressing this. So when it comes to the ICF, the idea is not so much that you focus on the diagnosis, but you focus on the also on the strength of the people, on their preferences, their interests, their motivation, and try to look at the opportunities that a person have. So I think the ICF that research is adequate to try to identify the strength and the resources, and not only addressing the challenges. And I think that makes a huge difference. It's a lot easier to work, to identify areas of support and increased participation if you mostly look at the opportunities. I think there is unfortunately a bias in many places where you seek help that people are very trained on just looking at all the problems that there might be, and they're not equally skilled in well helping with solutions. So I think the ICF approach can help to really educate people to be better in finding the solutions. And then when it comes to the training, well, I think we all can train out to be better at things, and it's not only the transition from childhood, to adolescence, but especially later on when after school, then the demands are increasing. You need to get independent, the money thing, and the relations, and you get a lot of responsibility for yourself. It's all very challenging, and I think well, one thing is to train up your skills and acquire knowledge. And I think well, both of the things that we are doing, we have tested in trying to are they of relevance for mastering transitions, and it seems like that both attempts can make a contribution here.
And you also focus on autism. So, how has your research evolved over the years, especially in relation to understanding autism?
Yeah, well, I have been in that area for 30 years, and a lot of things have changed and happened during this time. We have got a completely kind of different, kind of new idea about autism. Kind of what we describe as being autistic has changed quite a bit. We are diagnosing or detecting autism a lot more often, especially also in adults and in girls, and we diagnose earlier. And we had in the last maybe 10, 15 years also this kind of a revolution for our field with a new paradigm of neurodiversity. So everything has changed a lot, and I think that I've also changed quite a bit during that time. I'm traditionally I come more from a maybe kind of preclinical research kind of things, and then I got more and more interested in being more applied. Well, so trying to do things that really can reach practice. And today I'm very much interested in implementation. So really how we really get the things that we are developing and the knowledge into the real life of the people, and to generate some sustainability. So yeah, I think I've changed a bit coming from the kind of basic research side to trying to be as close to the lives of the people as possible.
What do you think the key challenges you face in researching these neurodevelopmental conditions are, and how do you address those?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you ask a researcher about challenges, they will all tell you, it's hard to get resources for what you want to do today. It's quite competitive, and so it's always an issue for researchers to get the funding for the things that you want to do, unfortunately. And when we look at how important autism is, it's still, the funding situation and the awareness is at least in many countries, it does not match kind of really what we would really like to see. So that's one thing. Then it takes quite a while to get across with new ideas. It's not so easy. So we are doing. I think we are doing really kind of interdisciplinary work. So which means that you're not really in the clinical field. You're not really in the psychology field. You're not really in special education. You are not really in school. And so you're a little bit kind of in between if you want to do this. And then people do not know exactly, how to treat your ideas. I must say I have sometimes seen kind of a lot of resistance to the things that we want to do. And it maybe took 10 or 15 years until people until this idea were mature among colleagues and among other people. So that can be a challenge, that there are traditions, and sometimes it takes quite a long time until the whole research area and whole society is kind of ready for new ideas and for things. Yeah, and then finally, one thing is getting your research and your development really into practice is that's a very huge challenge. Everyone would agree that there is a tendency that people would like to do do the business as usual, and not to change things. It's quite challenging. So I think these are my big three challenges that I face. But if you're passionate about things, well, that should not be an issue, really.
I just had a question that came up on the second thing that you just mentioned. So where if you you have an idea, something you want to research, but it'll take some time before society I guess approves of that kind of research. So I think I understand what you mean, but do you have an example you could give of where that occurred to you, where you had something you wanted to research, but you had to wait some years before you actually had the chance to do it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, if we look at this work that we are doing with this ICF system by the WHO, I mean, you could think, because it's a WHO's classification. I mean, and there are 192 countries that have signed up, that this is a system that they want to use and that they want to implement, and that should be kind of guiding in the field where kind of disability. You will find many people, for instance, in my area in psychiatry, who think that's absolutely nothing that they want to do. They always think, this is we are thinking in ICD terms, so in diagnosis terms, or we are thinking in DSM terms. So our work is diagnosis, our work is psychiatry, and we don't think this is a relevant issue for us, even though, I mean, it's of course it must be. So there can be resistance to new ideas, and profession can feel either that there's that they have not been socialized with such idea, with such a system. They see it as a threat. They see it as a challenge to their actual kind of work that they are doing at the moment. So new ideas can mean confusion. They can mean more work or something. And many people just people just does not disagree that we should look at, for instance, autism or ADHD from a more biopsychosocial model, from a more holistic model. Many people would like to continue to see us as biomedical diagnosis purely. So there's a lot of hesitation.
Could you also elaborate on the methodologies you use in your research and how these methods help in understanding, autism, which is so complex?
I continue talking about this ICF research because I think it's just a good example. So we are using the ICF uses a biopsychosocial model. So that's one thing. So you need to explore different areas, the biology, the activity of people, their functions, their activities, and so it's taken quite a broad approach, and then it also uses a lot of both qualitative and quantitative work. So it's a lot of talking, for instance, with all different kind of groups that that need to be involved, and because it's a WHO instrument, it also means you need to cover all the WHO continents, and you need to have involve all the different professions that maybe have a role in these diagnoses. So it's a quite international work, and we use, as we say, mixed method. We have a lot of qualitative and quantitative work. So yeah, so that's what we are doing. And then later on, when later on you can do other things. You can use the data to do epidemiological studies. You can use them for developing in interventions and personalized support. So it requires quite a toolbox of instruments. But it's the good thing is with this ICF research is it's the ICF is nothing that I have invented. It comes from WHO. It has a very good deal of authority. I mean there are many countries who have signed up that it's a system they want to use, and there are also many national authorities who have made decisions that they want to implement it. So what we are mostly doing is trying to facilitate this process and make it as attractive as possible and as evidence-based as possible. So that's the strategy that we have.
How do you incorporate genetic, neurological, and environmental factors into your research on autism?
Yeah, well, I would say when it comes to this ICF research, there's maybe not so much genetics in there. There's not so much neurology in there, but I have also been quite active, as I said previously, in preclinical, in work, in basic research. We have in Sweden a lot of we have registries, and I've always been very interested in twins. So we have when I came to Sweden in 2010, we were trying to build up a twin study where we collected twins from all over Sweden, especially twins that were, as we say, concordant or discordant for either autism or ADHD, meaning we had monozygotic twins and dizygotic twins, where either kind of one of them or both of them had the diagnosis, and we invited them to our department. They came often for 3 days, and we did very comprehensive assessments, both on a behavioral level and then also on a neurological level. And we took a lot of kind of biosamples, and in this line of research, we have done quite a lot of research on genetics and neurology, and also on environmental factors. That's research. It's still ongoing, a little bit in the background, but when it comes to the ICF, there's not so much. When it comes to the skills training that I talked about, there we actually use genetic data to look at if there are any genetic variants that co-vary with the intervention success. So are there people with certain genetic variants who maybe benefit more or less from such training? So both to be able to deliver the training, especially to those who have probably a high benefit, and not delivering it to people who maybe have no effect at all. So that's where we use as intervention genetics, kind of we try to personalize the choice of intervention using genetic information.
Are there any recent advancements in treatment or intervention strategies that have emerged from your research?
Yeah, as I said, well, we have been working with this skills training for quite a while. I started my career in Germany, and then I came to Sweden, and this social skills training intervention we have been working with now for 15 years, and have been trying to improve it over the time, and based on the feedback that we have from participants and the research data, and for instance, what we could find out is that it's rather, for instance, it's rather adolescents than children who have a good benefit than girls, for instance, have higher benefits than the boys sometimes. We can also see that those who have additional problems, for instance, with anxiety and depression, that this is something that the training is particularly effective in those groups. We can also see that at least for the this training comes in different variants of length, and we can see that actually the longer we train, the more effects we see. So that there's an effect also of the intensity and the dosage of the training. So we have learned really quite a bit with this program, and for instance we have done the largest randomized controlled studies on this training of any autism intervention in the world. So we have very good data, and that's what we have learned. And we have now this training is now also used not only in Sweden, it's also used in Germany and in Norway and in China and in Turkey and in Australia. And we have quite consistent results that it also works in different countries and different cultures if you make certain cultural adaptations.
How do you see the future of autism research evolving in the next decade? What are some areas that you believe need more focus?
It's really an extremely important question. I mean, the research field, when I started, it was quite it was quite homogeneous. Today, there's a lot more happening. There's so many new disciplines that have come into the area, and then you have a lot of autistic people and a lot of relatives who have initiatives, who have strong attitudes. We have people who still want to kind of work according to the kind of biomedical view. Kind of more and more people shift over to the neurodiversity paradigm. That also means, well, different things that you look at. Are you looking more at kind of genetics, biology, or are you looking more at the social influences? And the field is a little bit scattered at the moment. So I would say we will at least see in the future a far more balanced research field where things that I was talking about in the beginning, that things like applied research and implementation, and things really also looking at how society is taking care of people with those diagnoses, and what the environment can do to make their lives better. How you can do things in the school, in the leisure time, and in the work. So I think all of these areas will get kind of more and more important. People kind of desire, help and change kind of tomorrow, and not maybe in 50 years or so, which is mostly what basic research is kind of. That's the promise of basic research. So I think we'll see kind of a far bigger balance of biological and social research, and I think that's really vital to the field. And we'll see far more co-created research where people who are diagnosed and people, kind of everyone who's kind of involved in providing support is involved, so that we really kind of together develop for instance, intervention and help and research that's sustainable and accepted by many people and not only by some.
And what role do you think collaboration with other researcher institutions play in your work? And could you give an example of a successful collaborative project?
Yeah, it's I think it's very important for many different reasons, and one of my absolutely favorite collaboration is with my colleagues in Australia at the Curtin University. We have doing kind of a lot of the things that we have been developing in Sweden. We have for instance, the social skills training, both the method that we use in the clinical service, but also the one that we use in an educational service, have been adapted to Australian standards, and we have been doing research kind of in both countries, and we have been, for instance, when we did a study here in Sweden, then we learned a lot, and then we could do an improved design when we tested the program in Australia. So we really we were helping each other out and trying to maximize the quality of the research, and it has been absolutely to kind of a mutual benefit when doing this. And when it comes to the ICF, we have at the moment we have good colleagues in the UK at Sheffield University. The enthusiasm of using that kind of research is higher in other countries. It's for instance, it's higher in the UK at the moment than it is in Sweden. So we are able to do studies in the UK that we cannot do in the same way here in Sweden. For instance, testing the things that we have developed in real life in the UK in the NHS. So it really makes a difference. So there's a lot of synergies when you find the right people to work with.
Are there any new projects or publications that you are currently working on that build upon the research discussed in your recent book, Autismus, or your recent papers?
Yeah. So as I said, I'm really trying to focus on certain things, and that makes things sometimes so much more kind of easy, because when you focus on things, then it's easier to logically develop your research over time. And for instance, within our ICF research, we really building things stepwise. And we have now what we have done is we have adapted this ICF system to autism and ADHD, and then we have generated measures, and we have implemented those on a platform, and where you can quite easily make assessments, and then you get in real time. You get summaries of this assessment that tells you and other people, where are strengths and where are challenges and where are barriers and where are facilitators. And the next thing that we want to do is then take this result and add, for instance, information, add what you can do yourself to improve a situation, and where you can get support for the things that you struggle with, and maybe also how you can maximize your interest and strength, so that you have a kind of a complete flow in this assessment. You're making an assessment, you get a summary, and then you get also in real times also kind of recommendations that you can consider for yourself, how you want to proceed, with these results. So that's one thing that we are working at, and we are hopeful that it will make a difference in the future. Yeah.
What future research directions do you foresee as a result of the findings or themes explored in your recent and future publications?
Yeah, well, I hope we will get some kind of paradigm shift in the area, and that we go a little bit more from a kind of a diagnosis view, more to a more individualized view, and that we are interested in not if people are diagnosed in their condition. That's maybe a necessity, because we have built our societies in a way that diagnoses are kind of important for all this, for research and the reimbursement system. But I would like to see that we focus more on individual profiles, and that we care more in research and practice also, kind of how we can help people, specifically with their life situation. And for that, it's important that we look at other things in more detail, like the functioning and the quality of life. And I think that is something that will introduce a paradigm shift, that people will start thinking differently when they meet people who are diagnosed, and will also reduce some kind of stigma, I hope, and will lead to that you can generate more empowerment in the people. So that we go that we go more to an opportunity based kind of approach in that area. As I said, I think we have been quite good in many disciplines to be so much focused on problems, and I think we need kind of a paradigm shift to come into the solutions. That's what people want. People know about their issues mostly, but they are seeking solutions to them, and we have been too much focused on just mirroring people. The people come and say we have these issues, and we say, yeah, you have those. We call it with a diagnosis. So I guess what people want to hear is, we have problems, we need support, and we say, yeah, here I can help you. And I think that's the paradigm shift that we are hopefully going to see in the future.
What advice would you give to other researchers who are looking to pursue a career in neurodevelopmental conditions or publish their findings? So, prospective researchers.
Well, I'm often serving on those meetings, when there's kind of meet an expert and there come young researchers and they want to have advice. I guess the first thing is people need to know researchers today is very competitive. I think it's not the way that people maybe outside think that it is, that we can live in our ivory tower and that we get the money and can do whatever we want to. We need to kind of very toughly kind of seek for money, and then there's absolutely no guarantees that you will be able to do your research. Kind of many people also need to finance their own salary. And so there is it's a quite tough business. So people need to know this. It is very important that you are very passionate what you want to about your research. You need to be very passionate because there will be a lot of things, disappointments, and you will get also very many critical reviews. So it's good to know if you personality wise are if that's something that you would like to do. There are quite many people also here in my environment, people who after their PhD. So until you do your PhD, you're often quite safe. But then after your PhD, you need to be independent, and you meet this very competitive area. Many people have a hard time to meet this, and then they go elsewhere. They maybe go back to services again. So I think it's good to know. But on the other hand, of course, when you're passionate, you must do a lot of different things. You must write your articles. You must go and teach. You must be in many different contexts. And I guess it's very important today that you find your niche, and that that you develop for yourself kind of research line that's very specific for you, that is identified with you, that people say, okay, this line of research, this is mostly this person doing, that you kind of specialize. And then, well, that you get an expert in the field where no one else is an expert. And then, of course, well, you need to do research on quite a high level to survive. So it is competition, is a lot of competition. But if you are ambitious and passionate about things, you can you can be successful as a researcher.
Dr. Bolte, thank you very much for this wonderful conversation, and congratulations on all the amazing success you've achieved so far, and all the great research you're doing.
Thank you. That's very, very kind of you. Thank you. And thanks for inviting me.